Peter Thiel is the world's biggest One Piece fan and has the most unique and most ambitious theory for what the One Piece is than any superfan in the world. In October of last year, Peter Thiel wrote an essay where he talks about the Antichrist. Specifically, it's about how modernity's pursuit of technology either suppresses or summons the Antichrist. He goes over a few works of fiction that span centuries, which he thinks tackle this question. There is Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, Alan Moore's Watchmen, and Ichiro Oda's One Piece. This essay is all over the place. He rambles a lot, but he connects these works by framing them as a centuries-long secret debate on either side's helping or hindering the Antichrist, and he frames One Piece as resolving this dialogue, this debate. I'll try to summarize the essay plainly. Basically, New Atlantis is framed as the foundational text in promoting science and rationality as a path towards a utopian empire. Basically, if society is super rational and chooses the most scientific, evidence-based result, then life in society would be perfect. He says Gulliver's Travels counters this by holding the opposite stance. It depicts failed scientific utopias where citizens are super rational, but they're also misanthropic. It says that unchecked science leads to atheism and human degradation, where people still end up committing genocide and other horrors. Watchmen updates this debate for the nuclear era. So even though Dr. Manhattan is the most scientifically advanced creature in the world, he can control subatomic particles, he still can't stop Cold War escalation. The story ends with a one world or none problem. It poses either the world is united against the Antichrist, or the world rips itself apart through infighting and nuclear war. In the end of Watchmen, one of the characters pits the entire world against him, effectively becoming the Antichrist, but essentially saving them. Basically, one world is better than no world at all. Thiel says One Piece resolves this 400-year dialogue. He says, quote, Oda's piecemeal revelations cohere into a grand linear history of the Antichrist, superior on every decisive point to Watchmen. Now that's pretty high praise. First I should explain his reasoning why he thinks One Piece is an Antichrist story and all the connections he makes. In the Bible, the Antichrist imitates Christ in order to deceive people. The world government is ruled by a sovereign called Nerona Imu. Under him are 5 elders called saints. They have a private army called the God's Knights. As a dictator who has a government which obviously imitates God, he is meant to remind us of the Antichrist. Nero was an emperor of Rome who early Christians thought would return from the dead as the Antichrist, and Thiel thinks that this is why Nerona Imu has that name. He says Imu's appearance and throne is meant to represent Isaiah's king of Babylon who, quote, exalts his throne above the stars of God. Imu inhabits the Holy Land, which is the world's highest point of elevation, and he sits upon the highest throne. Another thing is when the Gorosei teleport, they arrive on a pentagram, and their arrival harkens to Luke 10:18's description of Satan's descent. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Now, these are a bit of a stretch, but it gets more interesting here. Bear with me. So if Imu is the Antichrist, then Luffy is Christ. Thiel says in the final saga, quote, Oda's Christian apocalyptic imagery has become undeniable. Undeniable. In the Wano arc, Luffy fights Kaido and Big Mom. Kaido is a dragon and Big Mom is a soul-devouring cannibal with hundreds of children. In Revelation, Christ encounters a dragon and the whore of Babylon, who is a woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Her being a whore means she would have a bunch of kids, and drunken with the blood of the saints implies that she is a cannibal. Now, Kaido nearly defeats Luffy, but Luffy transforms into the Christ of Revelation 1:14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Christ-like Luffy defeats Kaido and Big Mom. Like Revelation's dragon, they are cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Then we learn that this form of Luffy is called Nika. In our world, the real world, Byzantine Christians emblazoned the Christogram ICXC alongside the Greek word Nika, meaning Jesus Christ conquers, on their churches and icons. There's a bunch of examples of these. I want to point out that this guy really is a superfan. I don't think there is another person in the world who watched One Piece and made these connections to specific passages in the Bible. Out of all the theory crafters on YouTube or Twitter, this is the one guy who was thinking this way. And no, the irony is not lost on me that this guy who functions as the world government in real life with his incredible power and mass surveillance, that this guy loves One Piece. It kind of makes no sense to me. Anyway, now to his theory. Thiel says that by One Piece taking place 800 years into the reign of the Antichrist, it answers questions that go beyond Watchman's one world or none. Philosophers would answer this question very easily. One world ruled by the Antichrist versus no world at all. Obviously, you would rather have a world than no world. He's saying that in One Piece, they already tried the Antichrist's one world, and it has failed. So this is what he closes out the essay with. Oda reminds us to hope for such fantastical new things by defying us to reason out how One Piece will end. Neither the apocalyptic anarchy of an ocean teeming with pirates, nor the sclerotic gerontocracy of Imu's world government can last. Oda must reveal a narrow third way. As little children, we have faith that he will. So this is the most ambitious theory for what the One Piece is that I've ever heard. This guy thinks Oda is going to come up with a new world order. He has faith that Oda will reveal a third way, one that has never been done before or even written about before, or he would have mentioned it in this essay. This might be the highest expectation someone has for One Piece. Like, most people think it's going to be an ancient weapon or a secret poneglyph or something like that. But Thiel is kind of looking for a solution to world peace. I personally think this guy is a little crazy, not just because of how he acts in interviews and stuff and the things that he says. Even like reading this article, I tried to summarize the article the best I could, but it's almost incoherent if you read it normally. I had to read it a few times to figure out what he was trying to say. I don't know how he doesn't realize that all of us see him as the world government. We don't see him as Luffy. That said, I do think he is genuine in his analysis. I think he really thinks that this is what One Piece is about, like a religious tale where Luffy is meant to represent Christ and defeat the Antichrist. I don't think you can make the connections that he makes with specific Bible verses unless you genuinely believe that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments.